Okay, guys, I just did this to try and take a picture of the NOS tubes that we are unboxing today. I'm very excited about this. Hello, I am Michael, the Greek audio geek. And as you can see, my little table here is full of boxes that I just received from Europe. I'm so excited about this. Couple of things. First of all, there's no room on this table. We've even got tubes over here. This is a 1945 World War II tube I'm going to show you I just got. We've got tubes here from the 1930s. I mean, think about what was going on in the world in the 1930s. But for those of you who don't kind of know how this works with YouTubers in general, generally everything you see behind the screen is completely different than what you see behind. Like you've got this perception probably that it's nice, big room and this and that. No, I have to walk sideways over there to get by the table in the end of the room. I've got a light there that I literally can't get by without tripping over the light to get out of the study. And I've got so little room on this table here right now, and everything is so packed that my iced coffee is actually on the table behind me. But I digress. So what are we going to do today? I'm going to kind of unbox in real time. I haven't seen any of these tubes. I'm going to unbox them in real time. I'm going to show you what they are. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history and teach you a little bit more about tubes. Guys, here's the thing. Yes, I've been doing this I've been into audio since I was 8 years old. And I went through the solid state, then the tube, then the solid state. Now I'm back into tubes all hardcore. And you know, you can see the tube. I got 2 tube testers and I got tubes there and all that stuff. Those are tubes I just received yesterday and I cleaned them and did all that. And I have not tested any of that stuff yet. But I'm learning this stuff as I go along. And in fact, let's even do that. I'm learning this stuff as I go along. I'm sharing it with you. This is exciting. I'm not coming to you as an expert or a know-it-all. I look to you guys. You share info with me. You help me learn as I go along. I share it in turn with you. So, you know, no promises, no guarantees. I will say this. As much as I love NOS tubes, okay? If you want to get into tube amps and you want to do tubes, you don't need to be overwhelmed by this. You don't have to buy tube testers. You don't have to go searching the globe for NOS tubes. You can use modern production, these cryotones. I'm going to be doing a video on them. They're excellent, excellent tubes. Easy to get. You just order them. No problem. The Svein Horizon. I like the Svein Horizon series. I think it's a giant step up from their previous series where, in terms of sound and stuff like that, and it's not really any more expensive. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on tubes to get the tube glory. Yes, generally speaking, NOS is going to bring your gear to the next level. And that's where I'm at. So let's kind of talk about that. Before I do, I'm going to talk to you like this one I did clean. You can see how shiny those pins are. And that's important. You need a good, clean connection, as you would think with anything like that. And then here's some you can see. These aren't too bad. I did a cursory cleaning on them, but not in depth. There's a couple of ways. I got another video where I talked about I use 91% isopropyl alcohol. I use a really stiff, get the extra firm toothbrush to be gentle with them. Magic eraser works magic on these tubes. What you do is you wet it and you just kind of keep putting in and twisting it. And then I rub it down afterwards with my isopropyl alcohol. The other thing is this was actually recommended to me by a viewer. Thank you. This is for cleaning your solder end. And what I do is I'll wet the tubes with isopropyl alcohol. I'll put them and twist them and put them and twist them, and it actually works really well. Now here's the thing, guys, a couple of things. You've got to be careful when you do that. You don't wipe off the ink. Okay, some of this is engraved, some of it is ink. You don't want to wipe that off. That is important in terms of value, in terms of telling you what it is. There are other ways you can tell, but generally speaking, you want to be very careful of that. The other thing is never, ever, ever go lifting up the tube by the glass. Okay, you always want to do it by the base. You always want to be gentle because this can detach. You can break this. So when I insert them, oftentimes I'll insert them with 2 hands like this, and then you want to kind of wiggle them in, and then you want to wiggle it out. So that is the proper way that I have found to handle tubes. It's also an old wives' tale that you need to have gloves handling tubes. I used to do that. I used to think that. I talked to a lot of tube manufacturers, I talked to a lot of tube amp manufacturers, and they're like, you don't need to. So for the last year, I've handled probably hundreds of tubes without gloves, never an issue. So we're good with that. So now what do we got here for tubes? I'm kind of overwhelmed because you can't see everything I've got here. I've also got some interesting things that I've typed up that I want to share with you, kind of talk about. You hear us talk about diodes, triodes, tetrodes, and pentodes. So I had this drawn up. Basically, a diode means two, okay? A triode introduces a grid here. A tetrode introduces two grids, and then you'd get a three grid as you move up. So when you hear me say this is a triode tube or this is tetrode, that's what we're referencing. Okay, this is on the most basic level, but that's what we mean. And without going too technical, the screen affects the electron flow and all of that, and more screens will affect how they flow, the velocity at which they flow, things like that. So that's what we're talking about in a basic level. Let's do this one first. Okay. This is original box. It's an 814. My Aries Surratt uses that, and it's also the military designation is a VT-154, U.S. Army Signal Corps non-JAN. JAN stands for Joint Army Navy, which makes me think if this was stamped, maybe this was sent to them and maybe it didn't pass their specs or they decided not to, but this is all the original batting. I gotta be really, really careful here. I'm gonna take it out with you guys. And when we do it, I'm trying to do this in a way that you can see. There we go. And the date on this one is 1945. Let's see what we have here. Let me do this. Open this up down here. Okay, and then we've got, I'm going to move all this over. There's a whole bunch load of stuff on the floor over there. Here's the original paperwork. General Electric. Okay, and look at all that. And there's the tube. And here's the actual tube. This is an 814 General Electric. VT-154, which is the designation. And then I actually have some, and I didn't grab the right one, that will say, I've got some here that's actually got a globe anchor. It says U.S. Navy on it. Actual wartime production. And on this, what you do is you plug it in, and then there's actually a cable that gets plugged on the top. You got to be careful with these guys. These are super powerful tubes. You've got to be real careful when you start handling stuff like that. As with any tubes, you don't want to go handling anything that's powered up. You got to give it time to kind of let go of its charge, which can take hours to days. So don't go poking around on the inside of a tube amp unless you are an expert. I certainly won't. I certainly won't. But that is... I think that's really cool. And this is what we call black plates. You can see the plates are actually black, where on some of them, I don't think I have anything over here to show you. They're actually more of a gray. Generally speaking, for audiophiles, they prefer a black plate. Generally speaking, a lot of audiophiles prefer them. They feel that they're going to have a richer, more complex sound than a gray plate. Now, you got to be real careful. Like, these are just regular tube boxes, but when you start dealing with the NOS tube boxes like on these, okay, the CBS, stuff like that, you want to be real. Oh, look at this Marconi. Okay, you got to be real careful on these boxes. And I mean, they're brittle. And so what I do is I actually just take a little flathead screwdriver and I will just gently pry it open. Because I'm OCD, I have all my boxes that if I've already opened them, I already have at the top, I have it so that end is at the bottom, so I can very easily just grab it, not grabbing it by the glass end. And there we go. This is an RCA. This is what we call smoke glass or black glass. Kind of the double whammy is if you get black plates with smoked glass. That is audiophile heaven typically, and a lot of people like the sound difference with the smoke glass over clear glass. Will you hear a difference? I don't know, maybe. Have I heard a difference? On some, yes. On some, no. At the end of the day, though, if you don't like the generic flavor of that tube, let's say like RCA tubes, Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. Having it a smoke glass won't necessarily fix that. The other thing I will share with you is when people reach out to me and they'll say, what tubes should I get? You know, I've tried a GE. Well, my response to you is, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. There are a lot of tubes here. Sylvania is a big one of them, where they're rebranded. So oftentimes when you buy from reputable tube dealers, they can say to you, it's brand, oh, my Mazdas are a perfect example of that. My Mazda tubes. I love my Mazda tubes. Some of them were actually manufactured by Mazda, but they're rebranded something else. Mullard, Phillips, whatever it may be. So you're not, if you think you're getting a Mullard tube, you're really not. You're getting a Mazda tube that's simply rebranded. This is important because a lot of the people, especially on eBay, who don't really know what they're talking about, they're going to charge you more for something that, and I'm making something up here now, but they may say, oh, look, it's a Mullard. You're going to pay more because it says Mullard on it. But if it was manufactured by GE, you're not really getting the Mullard sound. You're getting the GE sound. So why not spend a lot less money and just go get the comparable GE tube? The other thing is, on some of the reputable dealers, they will charge less if, you know, the ink is faded. I'm okay with that. I don't need them. They have the beautiful ink. So long as it's a reputable dealer, I know what I'm getting. I will pay less for less ink and save the money so long as the tube tests really strong. Where I was going with the tubes. Different tube types. So even though everything may be technically like this is a 6SL7. Let's take a look at this 6SL7. I haven't opened this yet. I just got this from England. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so this is a clear glass. This is a JAN, so it's a Joint Army-Navy. I think this is a VT. Okay, so it's a 6SL7WGT export. So the W is now you're getting into a much more heavy-duty version versus what would have been for the normal home version back in the time, okay? This, we would call this a brown base. And can't tell if those are gray or black. It's tough to tell sometimes. But you would want on these, I'm trying to think if I have the years on these. I don't have the years on these. I have them on my spreadsheet, which I will show you in a minute. And where I'm going with this is a Sylvania. If you like the sound of this or you don't like the sound of this, you can't just go buy another Sylvania and think it's going to be the same. If it's a gray plate versus a black plate, that's going to sound different. If it was made in the 40s versus the 70s, that's going to sound different. Typically, as you get into the decades, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, the equipment gets older. They mass produce them more. They make them cheaper. I'm not a fan. I like my tubes from the 30s to the 50s. That's my favorite time period. The older, the better. So that's just my personal taste. It doesn't mean it's true. You need to understand what tube you're listening to, what decade it's from, and what type. So you can either replicate that if you like it or not replicate it and try something different if you don't like it. And that for me is the fun part, is understanding that and learning that. So I go back to what I said earlier, where, let me put this back in the box carefully. You can bypass all this and just go buy a really nice cryotone. Go buy some other new production. You'll be good. You'll be okay. You'll still get great sound. It'll be different, but you can still make it work. Okay. So that, I think, covers everything I wanted to, here's an example of an old box Gen 807. In fact, these. I did clean these. I haven't tested them. This is, see, it says Marconi, but it's actually Westinghouse. And this is a JAN, so it's Joint Army-Navy. This is 807. And this one is, I got to check my spreadsheet for the information of decades, but you can see the pins, how shiny those are. I really cleaned them up because they were a little bit corroded. I cleaned up the top. And this tube is in beautiful condition. We'll test it. And the person I bought it from was very upfront. He shared with me the specs. I got 5 of them because 4 of them were pretty good and 1 of them was just mediocre. But that's okay. Take a nice coffee break. And then I'm going to actually open up some of these boxes and talk to you about the tubes we have here. I'm going to show you my spreadsheet, how I keep track of this stuff, and we'll go from there. So iced coffee time out.